Welcome to Faith in 5, a weekly video devotional designed to discuss practical spiritual concepts in 5 minutes or less. I'm your host, Mark Vandella. A few years back, I had a conversation with a friend of mine who was in financial hurt, financial ruin even. And this friend of mine is an incredible person, the most giving, selfless, servant-hearted person I know. And when she came to me, she was completely distraught. And she said, I don't know how I got here. I don't really care about money. It doesn't mean anything to me. And we realized in that moment, it was almost like a light bulb went off for her. That was part of the problem. See, she didn't care so much about it that she wasn't able to plan. And then she was in this spot where she was in a lot of debt. She was not able to pay her bills. She was going to have to sell and leave her home where she had raised her kids, and it's all because she wasn't paying attention to it. She meant well, but it led her down a terrible path. See, a lot of times in our relationships, we believe the myth of a humble home. Now, it's not that being humble when it comes to our possessions and our money and not needing an extravagant lifestyle isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's not that it's bad. It's just, unfortunately, that can lead us down a path where we don't plan and we don't engage in regards to our money. See, I've had couples come to me and say, you know what, we're good on the conversation about money. We don't need it because we don't love money. We don't need money. We don't need much. However, that can lead you down the path of not paying attention to it. Money is a really weird thing. When we don't pay attention to it, it starts to consume us. Now, we think we're not paying attention when we don't need it, but when we don't control it and plan it, it actually does the opposite. And so the humble living myth is only really a bad thing when we don't pay attention to it, when we don't control our money, when we don't tell our money what to do, our money tells us what to do. See, money is kind of like air. When we have plenty of it, we don't have to think about it, we feel refreshed. Right now, I'm not thinking about my breaths, and I'm not thinking about how many of those I'm going to take. But when we don't have enough of it, it's all we focus on. If I was inside of a box right now or buried alive, all I would be thinking about is every breath I take, and is it the last breath? And when we treat money that way, when we say, I don't need to worry about it, then we get so uber focused on it, and all we do is think about where the next dollar's coming from, where we spend the next dollar. And so it's not something that we should ignore. Living humbly, controlling your possessions, and living in a way that's giving and servant-oriented does not mean we ignore money altogether. See, the Bible says that the love of money is the root of all evil, not money. And sometimes we get that mixed up and we kind of fool ourselves into saying, I don't need this, I'm good. But my favorite verse about money is from Luke 14:28. It says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Will you not first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? It goes on to use some pretty strong language like the fool who didn't plan, and how they look. And inside of our relationships, if we don't plan, a couple of things happen. One, we either end up in that spot where we feel like we're suffocating because we never have enough. Or two, if we don't plan together, oftentimes it means that one of us is paying more attention to it and the other person isn't involved. And then that creates some sort of a gap in our conversations. And instead of avoiding these conversations because we don't care about money, we need to step into them and plan. The conversation about planning the tower is probably not one person alone crunching numbers. There's other people involved. There's contractors. There's laborers. There's maybe a bank. That's how it should work within our relationship. The two of us need to come together and discuss. Additionally, in our faith, when we don't plan, we just kind of set off into our, I'm so connected to God that it's just going to happen. It's probably not true. Because everything that's going to happen to you is going to kind of point you in the other direction. Like, I can't breathe right now because the world is happening to me. We need to engage God. We need to plan for that. We can't let our faith or our money just happen. It's something that we need to think about, engage, and especially in our relationships, do so together. So this week in your faith, consider on the financial side in your relationships how you can plan, how you can engage God, and then how do you step into that plan in a way that gives you freedom rather than that suffocating feeling. And the same goes for your faith. How do you plan? How are you going to engage God? And then go engage God, and then focus on those things that are important. It's a simple formula, but it's not something we can ignore and just let it happen. The best marriages, the best faith, the best relationship with God takes planning, takes engagement, and takes staying focused on what's important.